As a world of water tears through the Sahel every year, the world has learned to expect only tragedy. It is a cycle of destruction that swallows crops and erases lives in a matter of hours. But in 2026, a massive change is taking place in Burkina Faso that has the global community in a state of absolute shock. While the international media focuses on sanctions and politics, President Ibrahim Traore is executing a mega project that is catching the storm instead of running from it. Burkina Faso is no longer begging for foreign aid to survive the floods. It is weaponizing the rain to feed its people. By building a massive network of storm catchers, this embattled nation is proving that a country under pressure can still engineer its own salvation. Good day, you're watching the Global Observer. Our lead story today examines how Burkina Faso is using local engineering and a new army of farmers to achieve total food security, dismantling the old script of African dependency once and for all. To understand why this is a mega project, you have to understand the brutal paradox of the Sahel. This region gets intense, violent rain for a few weeks, and then the land turns to bone-dry powder for the rest of the year. For generations, 80% of the populations lived and died. But by the time the paperwork was signed, the water was always gone. That waiting is officially over. Burkina Faso has decided to stop waiting for permission and start building. They are creating a calculated grid of reservoirs and dams across 8 critical regions. It is like a giant bucket brigade designed to capture every drop of a seasonal torrent before it can vanish into the Atlantic. But here is the part that is truly shocking the world, dear viewers. This is not being built by foreign contractors or funded by international banks. This is a $145 million mission being executed by Burkina Faso's own engineer, using their own machinery and local labor. They are moving at a speed that has left the West speechless. We're stopped. They aren't just building new structures. They are dredging 100 old dams that were shocked with dirt for decades. They are reclaiming millions of cubic meters of water capacity in months, not years. It is a mix of ancient wisdom and modern science, using traditional Zai farming techniques alongside satellite monitoring. It is a declaration of independence written in concrete and earth, showing that the Sahel has the brains and the brawn to solve its own problems without a 30-year loan from Washington. However, a reservoir is just a pool of water if you don't have people to work the land. That is where Traore's second revolution comes in. In June 2025, a new kind of graduate emerged in Burkina Faso. They are the agricultural VDPs, volunteers for the defense of the homeland, who have been trading their rifles for shovels. Over 8,000 fighters have been redirected toward a new mission: feed the nation. These young men and women are trained in climate-smart farming and irrigation. They are being deployed directly to the land served by the new storm catchers. It is a dual mission that is brilliant in its simplicity. They secure the land from insurgency and then they farm it. They are turning defense outposts into productive green zones, proving that a generation given a purpose will always choose to build. The results are already visible in the real world. So far, nearly 800 hectares of irrigation have been restored, and that number is growing every day. In places that were bone dry just 2 years ago, farmers are now growing rice and vegetables even in the middle of the dry season. The lean months used to be a death sentence for many families, but now they are a time of production. The weather table is staying alive because the storm catchers are pushing moisture up. back into the ground. It is an interconnected buffer system where water captured in the north can feed the fields in the south. Burkina Faso is turning the Sahel's most destructive weapon, its own rain, into its greatest asset. This is the part of the story that the mainstream narrative gets completely wrong. The world looks at Burkina Faso and sees a military government and a nation in crisis. They see the expulsion of French troops and the end of Western alliances as a sign of failure. But they are missing the doctrine of sovereignty that is actually happening. Traore isn't just moving away from the West, he's moving toward a self-reliant Africa. By integrating water security, food security, and territorial security into one mission, he has removed the middleman. He has removed the foreign consultants and the bureaucratic delays. What remains is a nation that catches its own rain, feeds its own people, and writes its own future. If this model works in Burkina Faso, it could change the entire continent. Imagine if Mali, Niger, and Chad look at these storm catches and say, why not use? For decades, the Sahel has been framed as a place that needs to be saved by organizations in Geneva, Washington. But Burkina Faso is proving that the knowledge, the labor, and the will have always been right here. Every dam built without a foreign bank is a reminder that Africa's future doesn't need to be imported. The storm catchers are the infrastructure of freedom, and the agricultural VDPs are the human network that makes it real. As the next rainy season approaches, Burkina Faso is in a high-stakes race against time. Climate change is making the floods fiercer and the drought longer. But for the first time, the country is not yet bracing for impact. It is preparing. But for the first time, the country is not just bracing for impact. It is preparing to win. The reservoirs are being positioned, the seeds are being planted, and the philosophy of self-reliance is being tested under the real pressure. If this succeeds, and the early evidence says it is, this would not just be a story about Burkina Faso. It will be a Pan-African proof of concept. It will be the evidence that a continent long told it is poor is actually wealthy beyond measure when it manages its own resources. The clouds are building on the horizon once again, but this time there are hands ready to catch them. The wall of water is coming, but it won't find a victim. It will find a nation that has learned to harvest the storm. Stay sharp, stay curious, and remember that the most important stories in Africa are the ones we build with our own hands. Thank you for watching The Global Observer. Stay right there.